Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. So today I have a new guest with me. I have Allie Mona, and I'm going to give you a little intro for to get to know Allie, and then I'm actually going to hand it off to you, Allie, so that you can tell us more about yourself. So Allie and I met, you and I met on Facebook. It's kind of the trend of a lot of the people I've been having on my podcast. You know, as much as I complain about social media, it's actually been such a great place to meet people. So
Love
I
hate
have to be
relationship.
thankful.
Love hate. Love hate.
Yes. Yeah, very much love hate. So you and I connected on a Facebook group that we're in together, and we got to talking and hit it off. And I actually have several things I'm really excited to talk to you about today because we see some things very similarly. And then you have a whole world of cool experiences to share. So with that in mind, you are I guess the fun way to describe you is a serial entrepreneur. So I'm going to hand it over to you. And I have to warn you, dogs may start barking at some point. I even see an Amazon guy pulling up. That could be a real interesting thing for all of us. So let's just hope it all goes well. All right. Tell us about yourself. Welcome. Thank you for being with me.
You forgot the dog on your lap.
I
The
know.
little
As we
head
always
poking
do.
out.
I know. We don't
Oh,
have personal space.
I know, of course not. Well, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be on the show and to share a little bit today. Serial entrepreneur is how my husband describes me. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, to be honest. But I am multi passionate about things. And so I love business and I love wellness. And so I have a branding agency and a wellness coaching business, both. And I'm in the season of trying to decide which one to like pour fuel on, and I still haven't decided. So for the meantime, I'm still loving and doing both. A little bit about my background. I'm from the US originally, but have spent pretty much from 21 on outside of the country. And so my husband and I met. He's also American, immigrated from Samoa. He's Samoan, but he's also American. We met in Beijing in 2004. Yeah, it was a long time ago, almost
Yeah.
20 years ago, as college kids, and then came back, graduated, couldn't find work. He didn't want to get married yet. And I was like, all right, I'm going back. So that started 16 years in China. And then I'm currently in the middle of Mexico. Oh, and there's that
I saw it. It is awesome. Do you want to tell us your bee story? I think everyone needs to hear your bee story.
there's like we have a bee infestation in the house, and so now it's on your face on my
Oh
computer.
gosh.
It's hanging out. Yeah, that's okay. We're just gonna keep going.
Hey,
It was on my mic for
yeah.
a second,
You
now it's on the
handled that really well. I would have maybe freaked out. You just kind of rolled with it. So wait a I love it. So
just roll
that
with
so
it.
the bee interrupted the most important part. You are in Mexico. That's
I'm
where
in
you
Mexico.
live.
So I'm in the middle of Mexico. We left China suddenly and against our will, pretty much in the summer of 2021, July of 21. So we've been here for 2 years. Also in the process, we have 4 children. Forgot about them. Is that who are we supposed to be
Is that
talking about
important?
them?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Go for that part.
I have 4 girls, actually, 3 biological, and then one came to our family through adoption. She's Chinese, the best gift. Today is World Adoption Day. Did you know that?
Is it really? I did not know
It,
that. Happy
it's
Adoption Day.
yes. So our girls are now 13, 11, 7, and 7. So
Wow.
the 2 littles are our third daughter is adopted, and she's
Yeah.
6 weeks older than my biological baby.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
That's
So they grew up as
amazing.
twins.
Wow.
She came home at 12 months, and then Margie was
Wow.
11 months. So yeah,
Yeah,
they're super cute.
I love it. It's a lot of girls. So you and your husband have really had to navigate the world of raising 4 girls. That's not an easy world.
Oh boy. No, it's not. He's amazing. Like, I mean, we're going to talk about a lot of things, but he really is, when it comes to raising girls, I don't know, he's awesome at it. Like, he was meant to be a girl dad. We even had a dog in China and she was a girl. Like, my poor husband,
That's awesome.
surrounded by lots and lots of estrogen and then little estrogen. Um, but he really, I don't even know how to describe it, but like, he's super loving and super firm. So
Mm-hmm.
my house is not crazy. You would think
Yeah.
poor girl, like it's crazy. Like my husband actually, when I'm gone traveling for work or whatever, he runs a really tight ship. I'm the one that's like, oh, you're being too hard on them.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. I love
He
it.
runs
It
a
works.
tight ship.
Hey, he knows how to run it so that it stays afloat. Everyone can
Oh, it's
survive until
afloat.
mom gets back.
Yes, he's
I
afloat.
love
Living's
it.
afloat.
Love it. So, okay. So when you and I connected, and I want to hear more. Actually, probably towards the end, I'm going to have you tell us more about your businesses because that's really, really cool. Before we dive into that, you and I, when we first met, we did kind of like a short video meeting and we talked about like, what would we talk about if we were to do a podcast together? And this is one of the things I was really excited about. So you used a word that is one of my favorite words, and it's the word intentional. And
To say that.
I love it. Is one of my favorite words. And so you and I talked about being intentional in our parenting and what that means. Like, how do we parent and run our family in a way where we are making choices with purpose because we want to nurture a specific kind of family. Like we want to be involved as parents. We want to nurture our marriage. And that is so important. You and I really connected on that. And so I want you to kind of tell me about kind of what that means to you. What do you
Yeah.
think when you think of being an intentional parent? Walk us through that.
Okay. Two things that come to mind immediately. Um, the first one is when Ron and I got married, when we started to have kids, we got married and had kids young. And we had fabulous mentors. And one of my mentors asked me, what is your overarching goal for your parenting? Nursing a baby. I'm like, really? I'm like, I'm just trying to keep it alive. Right. But it forced me to think intentionally about what we want. And we have an overarching marriage goal,
Mhm.
which is when our children leave, we have 10 years left with littles in the house. When our kids leave, we want to look at each other, my husband and I, and still know each other.
Mhm.
Right?
Love
We
it.
don't want to look at each other and go, oh crap, who are you? Right? That we've intentionally invested our time in our children or in our businesses or in something else, but not in each other. So that's the overarching marriage goal. The overarching parenting goal is to raise children who, when they leave, because we're raising expat kids, let's be honest, they're not going to go to school next door, even though this city has a beautiful university. They're not going to, right? One wants to go back to Asia. My oldest wants to go to Europe. They're going to be all over the place.
Yep.
Our overarching parenting goal is that when they're gone and they don't have to come back, that they want to come back. They crave to come back.
Yep.
And so what does that take? How do you do that over the 18 some odd years that you have your kids under your roof? And our answer has kind of fizzled out to become parenting for relationship over being right,
Love that.
right? Like we can be right all day long. I'm often always right because my kids are little, right? Like
Right.
no, you have to put your shoes on to go outside and play. Like
Mhm.
yeah, you just have to, right? I can be
Mhm.
right and yell and be right, or I can get down on the floor and help with the shoe that's causing her an issue that's making her not want to put her shoes on to go outside,
Yep.
right? Like that has colored our parenting so that our kids are so close with us. Like my 13-year-old wants to sleep in bed with me at night. The
Mhm.
first thing she does when she wakes up is she comes and snuggles me. She's 13. At 13, I was not doing that, my friend.
Mhm. Mhm.
I was not,
Yeah.
right? And so those are the two kind of compasses that we use to make sure we're intentional. Another one would be we were in China forever. All of our girls were born in China. One of my girls is Chinese. When we moved here, we're in a tiny city. There's no English speaking schools, and my kids did not speak any Spanish. So we made the choice to put them full time in a private school that had no like English as a second language help.
Yep.
Was it hard? Yes. Was it an intentional choice? Absolutely. And now, 2 years later, we had them picking up their Chinese again. So
Mm.
now each one of my kids has 3 classes a week online in the evenings where they're online one on one with a Chinese speaking tutor. Do they like it? No.
Mm-mm.
Do I care? I don't.
Mm-mm. Nope.
Like, it's my job as their mom to look at what they're capable of and push them to that max.
Yeah.
You don't get to be born in China. You don't get to be Chinese, kiddo. It's my job to make sure that that sticks.
Mm-hmm.
And those are some of those intentional choices that we're making to make sure that we're giving them the best launch pad, if
Yeah.
you will.
No, I love that because it really speaks to your values, right? Like everything you do, every decision you make, and we're not perfect, right? Like sometimes we think we're making the best decision and then we realize later, like, maybe not. But we make decisions in the moment based on what we know, what we can kind of look in front of us and see, okay, this is the information I have to work with, therefore I'll make these decisions. But the goal is to filter all our choices through our value system, right? Like what matters to me and my spouse, like what are the values we want to instill in our children? How do we want to teach our kids to be, functional members of society? And look, if they grow and they kind of step away from the things we teach them, then that's just something that's natural. We've all done that as adults. But while they live with us, we want to do our absolute best to raise them with that. And so for you, yeah, it's not super fun to do 3 language classes at a time, but it's what they do. It's important to you see the value long term that they can't see right now, but they'll appreciate it when they're older, right? And so that's the hard thing about being a parent is we do a whole lot of stuff that they're like, really? But yes,
Oh,
it's a good
my
choice.
favorite line is, "You will thank me when you're 25. Get to class."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I acknowledge your misery. Suck it up.
Mhm.
Go do it,
Suck
right?
it up.
But to your earlier point, you also cushion it with love and the relationship, right? So you're not a dictator parent. You are a firm and or like structured parent, but you're very much a loving, caring, compassionate parent. And that's that like balance. Is I think a lot of people fear that you can't have both, that you can't be loving and caring and fun and be structured or strict or whatever, or vice versa, but you can. It's not about um it's about the why, right? Like, why am I doing this thing? Yes, my kid has to put their shoes on to go outside, but beyond the role of or the reason of like injury, like in the social norm, like wear shoes outside this house. I'm teaching you to function. I'm teaching you to follow instructions from an authority or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. It's about, and that's essentially like encompasses my whole message is how do you protect your marriage from the difficulties that come with having kids, but also how do you parent in a way that supports your children and your marriage? So
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
rambling. I don't know.
No, I love it. One of the things too is, if you're gonna ask your kids to do hard things, like show up at a school with no English support for 7 hours a day and suck at Spanish for the first 6, like right now they're fluent. Every single one of them fluent in
Awesome.
Spanish. 2 years, I'm not, because I'm not in school 6 or 7 hours a
Yeah,
day.
see how that works?
But right? But if you're going to ask them to do hard things, you have to lead by doing hard things.
Yeah.
So you better believe that I'm on Spanish 3 days a week, just like they're on Chinese 3 days a week. And do I love my Spanish class? No, I don't. But if I'm going to require hard things of them, I have to lead by example, or it doesn't work.
Absolutely.
It
No, I
doesn't work.
agree. So what are your if you could pass on some of this hard-earned knowledge about how to do those two parts, right? Like how to maintain and nurture your marriage so that when it's just you and Ron, that you really can still enjoy each other. And then how do you and him parent with intentions that your kids want to come back when they move out?
Yes, boundaries. That's the
Oh,
number
yes.
one line is, my kids know daddy comes first.
Mhm.
And they know that from Ron, that mommy comes first. Like,
Mhm.
there is no question. Do they like it? Secretly, they do.
Yeah.
It provides safety when a child believes falsely, or if it's the truth, that their world revolves around them. It's chaos for that kid.
Mhm.
It's chaos. My kids know that my relationship, my world does not revolve around them. I
Mhm.
will go to the ends of the earth for them if they need it. but my world doesn't revolve around them.
Yep.
Right? Like, I don't know how to describe. I'm trying to think of like something practical. Mm, I'll have to think about something like a practical. A lot of it is in how we communicate.
Mhm.
You know, lots of no's happen in this house.
Yep.
Lots and lots and lots of no's. There's a lot of people and needs in a family of 6. Not
Mhm.
everybody gets
Yep.
what they want. Everyone gets what they need. Not everyone gets what they want. My oldest, right? She's 13. The world revolves around a 13-year-old, right? It just does. It's the
Yeah.
stage, it's where it is. But I'm the first one to tell her, listen, the way that you behave in this house impacts everybody else.
Mhm.
We do chores, but we don't get paid for chores. Chores is because you're a valued member of our tiny little community and you have a role to play and you're important. If you don't do your chores, someone else has to pick it up for you. You matter, right? So, how much more important or more valuable is the message that you matter and I need your help to keep us all running over do your chores, right? Like, I need you to do your chores because you're not going to get your allowance. No,
Mhm.
you matter. And that's why I need you to do your chores,
Like a
right?
team.
So
If you don't do your part, the team fails.
we are a team. And
Mhm.
that's how we've always been. But that's especially here as our kids are getting older and
Yep.
they want to go and do their own thing or they're testing those limits. It's like, wait, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah.
Right. But then the love piece is yesterday, my eldest had 2 hours of Chinese from 6 to 8 at night. Well, it was her dishes night. My kids are in bed by 8:30 because we get up at 6, 5:45, 6, all of us. And I'm sitting there going, I could do her dishes, right? I could
Mhm.
do her dishes. That's a loving choice I can make that helps her feel loved. Because what is she doing? She's doing what I asked her to do in learning Chinese.
Yeah.
I can do that for her. And you better believe the love that was showered on me. She's not like,
Yeah.
oh, thanks, mom. It was hugs and kisses, and I'm so grateful. And I love you. That's not what I'm looking for, but she feels it, right?
Mhm.
She felt that love and then gave it back.
Mhm. I love it, and I agree with everything you're saying. But when you first said Ron comes first, in my head, I was like, someone listening to this is going to freak out about that. But I think we should talk about why people are going to freak out about that. So let's define what that means, right? When you say that, you're not saying my kids are not important. You're saying my kids are so important, but for us to be good parents and for us to really nurture our family, we have to take care of each other. We have to be aligned and we have to nurture our marriage and we have to be strong as a couple, or else we fall apart. And if we fall apart, then who's going to take care of all these kids and who's going to make sure that everyone's getting what they're needing? And so I wanted to pause on that because I can tell you, I know people who, and even like when you think of it, maybe on a basic level, like our kids need us to survive, especially the younger they are, they can't take care of themselves, they're not independent. So you're not saying I won't meet my needs, my kids' needs if my husband needs me. You're saying I will make sure that everyone is taken care of. We will both make sure everyone's taken care of, but we will also make sure our marriage is taken care of. We're not going to neglect your marriage to meet the need of the family because it all comes together. So I could hear in my head someone was going to take that the wrong way.
Well, I think too, more than that, my kids know my marriage is first.
Yeah.
And they balk at it and we joke we laugh at it. And I'm like, listen, y'all are gonna leave me.
Yeah.
Who am I gonna be left with? This guy. So I better send some attention over there. My kids don't like it. They don't like it. Like let's be honest.
What
Everyone
don't
wants
they
to
like
have
about it? What is it? What specifically?
a date night.
Yeah.
Oh, why do you have to leave? Because date night with my husband, forget the fact that he's your father, he's my husband. That's important to me. And one day I hope that your husband is important to you. Right? We want to model the things like it's like modeling self-care. A mom taking care of herself does not mean she does not care for the needs of her children,
Right.
right? A wife who is connected to her partner they're not mutually exclusive,
Mm.
right? They're not. And so my kids know that daddy comes first.
Mhm.
And daddy coming first is not, oh, I'm going to serve your father dinner before I serve you dinner. That it's not like
Mm.
that.
Mm-mm.
It's a sentiment. It's a priority,
Yeah. Yep.
right? And
Mhm.
yeah, my kids don't like it, but they do like it. I don't
Yeah.
know how to describe it. Like they balk at it in the moment, but then my oldest especially will be like, my friends' parents don't go on date nights.
Yeah.
Right? Or, now because my kids are 13 and 11, lots of divorces happening, lots of separations happening, right? My littles, they don't understand yet, but my big kids do. And so we don't ever say, well, maybe they didn't do date nights. I mean, that's not appropriate
Yeah.
at all.
Right.
But they recognize how our family culture is different. Because now they're spending nights over at friends' houses and oh, their parents don't play like you guys do. They're not, affectionate like you guys are, right? They're starting to notice because we don't shy away from those conversations.
Uh-huh.
Ronnie will make some comment of like, ooh, my wife, and my big girls will like roll their eyes, like a dickhead,
Yeah. Yep.
but inside they love it
Yep.
because it feels safe. Again, it's like priority and hierarchy. Child should not have the responsibility to be above or more important than an adult. It's not safe for them,
Mhm.
right? They need that boundary. They need to know that there's boundaries in place to keep them safe, to keep them loved, right? When they stray out of that, it's our job to bring them back. But it's our job to keep those boundaries straight in the first place as parents. And it's really hard when kids are little.
Yep.
Right? I mean, I nursed a bazillion kids for a bazillion years, it felt like, right? And it's like, no, daddy, you can't have me at the moment, right? Like that's not
Yes.
possible. So it's different phases too. But you got
Yes.
to come out of newborn
Mhm.
and find yourself as wife again
Mm. Yeah.
so that when all of your animals leave the house, then you're not strangers. I don't want to be a stranger. I loved him first before I even had my children.
Yep.
Right? I want both. I want that relationship with my girls and I want that loving marriage. And you can have both.
Yeah. Absolutely. Girl. Mm. Mhm.
Yes,
No,
yes,
I
you can.
agree. And it's so interesting, and this is maybe for a different conversation, but I feel like I've maybe shared it with like in my Facebook group live somewhere, but I don't know. But like my husband and I, Rich, part of why there were lots of different reasons why we only decided to have one kiddo, but a big part of that decision was I don't know that I would be great at balancing being a mom to like spreading myself to second child and still being the wife that I want to be. And I knew for him, he would do better with share like all of his love going to one kid and getting me, So
Yep.
it was a decision, it was part of that decision. And that's just knowing yourself. Like there are some people like you can rock it with 4 kids. I would have been a disaster with 4 kids. I know myself, and there's no shame in that. And I think there are a lot of people that you can't relate to what you're not in, I guess. But then I know people who have had multiple kids and struggle because they didn't prepare themselves for what values do we keep, how do we do this, how do we connect and disconnect from your spouse. I think is one of the number one, like second to communication, is the needing to connect, feeling disconnected, because it's so normal, it's so common to run into that, and it's not this shameful thing. It's something we just all have to work on. And you find a rhythm, it works for a little bit, and then life happens and you have to readjust and modify your approach. And then, like you said, when the kids are little, you do it one way, and when as they get older, you just adjust. So
Mhm.
and one of the things I love about what you're saying is it's not either or. It's not, I can either be a really good wife and nurture my marriage, or I can be a really good mom and nurture my kids. Like while you're playful with your husband, you're also playful with your kids, and your kids can see, like you said, that modeling of like, this is what being the mom and the wife looks like, or the dad and the husband looks like because we also want them to see this is the kind of man you want to aspire to be with, right?
Yes, 100%. And I think Ron and I didn't go into having children with strategy. We originally, I said I wanted 6.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had
Mm-hmm.
1, and then I was like, oh, can we back that? Everyone's a great mom before they have children, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, then we backed it down. Then I was like, my pregnancies were hard. I was like, okay, 3 pregnancies, great. And then Grace came along,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, that's my kid. I guess we're having 4.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't even,
Yeah.
there wasn't a lot of strategy. We're kind of like, right, you made your bed. Now we're gonna lie in it. Now we got to figure it out,
Yes. Yep.
right? Because I mean, we never thought about how expensive a family 6 is, right? We didn't think about traveling with 6, the kind of car you need with 6, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we were young and just loved babies and we were just going for it, right?
Yeah.
But now, so you asked, how do I bring the love and that boundary? My kids love snuggles first thing in the morning and last thing at night.
Yeah.
So in my tank, and there's 4, so I go from kid to kid because I don't want to share.
Yeah.
Fine. So I get up 35 minutes earlier so that I have time with each one in the mornings. And I make sure that there's energy left in my tank for the evenings,
Yep.
right? It's finding the love languages of your children. And I'm not talking about the 5 love. Yes, that's important to know, but what do they want from you? Now, when my kids were little, I had the best friend. She had older kids that were like my kids' age now. And I was working full time and I had a nanny for my girls. And I was lamenting to her one day, like, oh, there's a nanny raising my babies. And I like didn't want that, right? I wanted to be an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, serial entrepreneurship later. Um, she said to me, and I'll never forget it. So I didn't believe it at the time, but I wholeheartedly understand what she was saying now. She said, listen, Allie, anyone can change a diaper. She said, if you want to be home with your kids, you design your life so that come middle school, you can have as much availability as they need. Because in the beginning, they want you all the time, period. Now, when my kids like, hey, can we talk? Drop it all. What do you need?
Yeah. Yes.
Because I can, right? But again, that's an intentional, strategic choice. And without her saying that, I wouldn't have known to do that,
Yep.
right? So I know kind of when each kid needs something differently, and they still fight over me, they still fight over daddy. There's just a lot of bodies, right? Um, but meeting them with what, and my husband struggles with this. My husband says, oh gosh, we're all home on a Saturday. I got to be with the kids 100% of the time. And I'm like, yo, they've got 2 hours of electronics time. Leave them be. They're happy. It's when they need you that you need to be available.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we struggle differently in that area of just, I'm like, oh, they don't need me after being needed for so many years. I'm like, sweet, you go do you, boo. I'm going to sit when you need me, I will
Yeah.
drop everything, but
Mm-hmm.
I am not going to go and find you to sit on your bed if you don't need me. Sometimes I do. Sometimes
Yeah.
they're just watching. I'll
You
just
miss them.
snuggle up there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, right? But that's different because moms are so needed for so many years that at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, independence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
No,
My life is so
absolutely.
good. I love independent children.
Yeah.
Yep.
And and like you said, sometimes that mommy guilt kicks in, or just you have a need because you haven't seen your kids much maybe in a day because they've been at school or whatever, and you seek them out. But it's a balancing act. I think it's knowing also when they need to be quiet. Because I think, one of the things that I've had to learn, I don't remember, this was years ago before I had Tristan. I had a client who was a single dad, and I was talking to him about, like, when you're in the car with your daughter, like, is that talking time? Is that when you try to catch up? He said, yeah. He said, but sometimes she just needs to sit and be quiet after a long day at school. And I remember at that moment being like, is but you don't talk all the time? Like, what do you mean you don't want to ask her questions about her day? So I remember taking it, like questioning. I wasn't sure what to do with it. I hadn't had kids yet. And now that I have Tristan and he's 11, he's in sixth grade, we're in middle school. And it's like, I want to know all the things. And he's a very, like, he's like he's open and he talks to us about all the things. But there are times where he just needs like to be quiet or be on his electronics or whatever. And I do run into moments where I'm like, am I being a neglect? Like, I'm not asking him all the questions. I'm not making him talk to me all the time. Like, am I being a really, really absent mom? Like, I'm sitting right there. I'm like computer working and he's on the couch next to me playing a game with his friends online. But it's that parent need sometimes to be like, I want to make sure I'm involved and he knows that he can talk to me all the time. Well, he knows that. We've established that. We've created that foundation and that framework. But it also is really good that there's a comfort in just like, I can come to you when I need you, mom or dad, and that you don't have to like that's established, right? And so I think it's again, it's being intentional and it's adjusting to every stage of development and making sure like, hey, you're now at this phase where there's different kinds of things going on in your life. Maybe you are a little bit more uncomfortable in talking to me about these things. So let me make sure you know this is still an okay topic to bring to me. I'm not going to be embarrassed if you bring it to me. You might be embarrassed, but we'll be okay. Like it's navigating all of that, all the while making sure that he understands that he is important, even if we're not together. And I'm making time for my husband. My husband needs to know he's important. And I think it's just part of being the wife, the mom. Like it just looks different for us, not to exclude how it looks for guys. And like I told you before we hit record, I have not had male guests on this podcast yet, Allie. So it's their fault for not coming to talk to the men that
That's
listen to
right. That's exactly right. If you don't want to be, categorized over here in this bucket, you have to come and share your story. I
Exactly.
love that. One of my favorite phrases in this phase is, you want to talk about that? My kid had a hard gymnastics session on Tuesday. She walked out crying. In the car, I turned to her. I said, "You want to talk about it?" She
Mhm.
said, "Nope." I said, "All right.
Respect.
I'm here when you're ready. If
Mhm.
you want to talk about it."
Mhm.
Right? Okay. Right. So I see you, knew you want to talk about it. I'm not going to force it.
Mhm.
Right. And that's it. As opposed to, "Oh, come on, honey, let me know. You're okay." Sometimes you don't, that's not helpful.
Mhm.
Right. Not at all. You want
And
to talk about it.
that applies to marriage too, right? There are lots of different styles of communicating. And, one of the most common issues is when a couple is having a disagreement, one person might need a break from the conversation and the other's like, no, we need to keep talking about this till I feel better, till it's resolved. And so it's applying that same mindset to or approach like, okay, is this about me or is this about the relationship? And same with your kid. Is this about what I need or is this about my child? Right. And so learning to, when it comes to marriage, I always say like, talk or listen to nurture the relationship, not to nurture your own need.
Yeah.
Because what you need is important, but right now in this situation, your need is going to take away from what the relationship needs. And so just learning to read the room, learning to know your spouse enough to
Mhm.
recognize like what is their style. And that's one thing I think I don't know that we always know. Like I had the benefit of going to grad school like right after we got married. I started grad school and took like couples counseling classes. So I was lucky to have like this. I was learning it while I was trying to do it, right? And so, but typically, I don't think couples are encouraged or know that you have to learn this person. Like you can't, you're not just gonna figure it out on your own. Sometimes you will, but you have to pay attention, study this person, listen to what they're saying, practice and learn from what went well and what didn't go well so that you can do it better instead of just hammering in what works for you and just getting frustrated because it's not, they're not getting on board. But like it's partnership, it's a team.
And you can do that with your kids too. So about 2 months ago, we sat individually with each of their girls and said, parenting audit. What are we doing well? What can we get better on?
I love it.
And what was the answers were really surprising because the guilt or the pressure that we put on ourselves as parents, we think our kids are going to pick up on that. but they don't see it differently, or they don't see it the same, they see it differently. So that was a really interesting exercise, and we did it with between Ron and me too.
Mm-hmm.
And the question was, what will make you feel more loved? Right? And so I highly encourage
I love
even
it. I'm
little kids,
stealing that. Stealing
do
it.
it. Even the
Mm-hmm.
little kids, like my 7-year-olds, they wanted, what did they want? They wanted more snuggles. Can I give them 5 more minutes of snuggles a day to fill their love bucket? Absolutely. Why would I deny them that? Whereas I'm thinking they want excursions out of the house. They want more vacations. They want more toys. No, they wanted snuggles. One of my kids said, "Can you wake me up 10 minutes earlier so that we can snuggle longer?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I can
Yep.
do that. You mean you don't want to go on that expensive vacation I've been traveling or planning? Like, okay, sweet.
Yeah.
I'll wake you up 10 minutes earlier every day,
Easy.
right?
Yep.
Other thing too that has developed such a strong relationship between me and my girls and my husband and our girls is apologizing.
Oh yeah. Mm.
Not excessively
Mhm.
and only when you're wrong, but oh boy, how many times our parents' generation, I don't know about our parents, mine and my no one apologized,
Mm.
right? But everyone knows when an apology is due. And if you don't apologize, you lose authority in your home. You
Yep. And
do.
respect.
Yeah.
Hmm. I think
Right. And
it's such a
so
great point. Go ahead.
there's
Sorry.
seasons. Oh my God, there's seasons when I feel like I'm like on my knees groveling because I'm such an animal, And it's like, but you know what? It's teaching so many things. It's modeling that when you're wrong, you fess up and you
Yes.
ask for forgiveness. Right? Oh man. I
And
have
that it's
another
and that
message.
you're going to be wrong. Like you're human. You're going to make mistakes. So it's
Mhm.
modeling humanity and normalcy of like make a mistake and that's fine. And that's what we always tell our son. It's like if he gets in trouble for something and we have to sit and have a talk, whatever that looks like, because we all talk a lot. It's that like, dude, you're gonna mess up again. So what are we gonna learn from? Like, it's okay. If you never messed up again, there would be something wrong with you, right? I mess up, you're gonna mess up. So what do we want to learn from this? And to your point, like for our role is when you have to apologize for something, the apology piece, the I'm sorry piece is the smallest portion of it. It's the here's what I did that I feel sorry for. Here's what I could have done differently and what I will work towards in the future. And sometimes as a parent, you have to prompt that.
Oh
We
yeah.
taught Tristan to do that, but he is 11 and he sometimes doesn't want to apologize like he's 11. So a lot of the time it's like, dude, when you're ready to apologize, then we'll talk it out. But until then, like, I don't want to play that game right now. I love you. I'll sit here with you, but like, I'm not ready to just pretend like everything is okay. As soon as we can talk it out and heal both our hearts about it, this will be great. And when we do, and he tucks his tail and he apologizes, it's like, thank you. So let's like tell me what you're sorry for. And that is
Mhm.
such an like no one wants to say like, ugh, he would say eat crow. Like it's so ugh to
Nobody.
apologize. But then when you're done, you feel like lighter and closer. And it's just like this healing takes place. And like you're saying, when the parent is the one apologizing, you validate that your kid is important and that they matter, and you're modeling, but also you are helping them heal a part of them that they may not have understood was hurt. Like maybe they felt yucky, they didn't understand why, and now we've fixed it.
Yeah. Everyone's brought back into that fold, where everything's okay again and everything feels safe, right? Like Ron and I were talking the other day. I'm like, my kids have it so stable. Like they don't even realize how like neither one of us grew up super stable, kind of, but not really,
Mhm.
not this stable. And what that does for their little brains, just a bit of stability, is it's miraculous to see,
Yeah.
And then going back to, making our kids do hard things. One of the reasons that's so important to us is because what that does for the human brain. So, my kids, fine. Oh, I'll give you an example. We were leaving China. We left in 3 weeks and we didn't want to leave and we had to leave and it was awful. I cried every night for 3 weeks and I am not a crier, but I was like mourning horribly. It was my life. It was like everything, right? 16 years, most like I grew up there pretty much all my 20s, most of my 30s. And we had gone to our favorite restaurant, and it was like the final time because we were leaving the next 2 days. And we were in 2 different taxis going home, big family. And my oldest was with me. She was 10 at the time. And I was just in the car, just silently bawling. She put her head on my shoulder and she goes, Mommy, we're going to be okay. I said, how do you know we're going to be okay? Because we moved to Mexico sight unseen. I've never even vacationed in Mexico before we moved here.
Wow.
We said, how do you know we're going to be okay? She goes, do you remember when we moved from Shanghai to Shenzhen? So we moved cities within China 3 years prior to this moment. I said, yeah, I remember. And she goes, we didn't want to leave Shanghai, did we? And I was like, nope. And she goes, and look at how awesome Shenzhen's been.
Wow.
She goes, what if Mexico's even better?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Smart
And
kid.
so when we encourage, no, we force my kids do hard things, they look at that next hard thing with different eyes.
Yeah.
They go, I think I can do that because of X, Y, and Z.
Builds resilience.
Tons of resilience. And what does this generation of children need more than anything else? They need
Resilience.
grit,
Mm-hmm.
right? They need
Absolutely.
resilience. They need grit. And so if you want a really simple way to build that for your children, it's making them do things that they don't want to do.
Yeah. And
That's good.
it's as you're saying that, I'm also thinking about the extra challenge that we have with an only child, because he does get a
Mhm.
lot of what he wants. There's no one else to share it with. You don't share attention, you don't share vacation rent, like you don't share anything. We've got 3 dogs and we've got 3 people. We're not even sharing dogs, right? So, and each one of us happens to have a dog that likes us more than the other people in this house. So it's great. But that is a layer, like when you're talking about your kiddo that wants to be woken up 10 minutes early for cuddles because she knows that she has to work, like she has to ask for what she needs. And you, as a mom of 4, you have to navigate parenting a different way than I do, because I don't
Yeah.
have to, we have to do things differently. And I think that we just have to also recognize, like what you were saying, to know your kids' love languages. Like each one of your kids is very different, regardless of whether you birth them or not. You can have twins that
Yeah.
are very different. And as parents, I think the old school way of thinking is like, well, this is how I parent, and they just need to get on board. Okay, I can see there are certain values that you do have to maintain, just the way you run your home. But within that, you nurture relationships based on your connection with that kid and based on that kid's needs. You might have a kid that likes snuggles more than the other one does, so you don't force snuggles on the one that doesn't want it, and you don't deprive snuggles from the one that does want it. You have to some extent have a little bit of a tailored approach, because you are in a relationship with each one of your kids differently. And so it's just know what you're dealing with, know what your family dynamic is, and then play to that, like grow from there.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my kids would take money over snuggles all day long. Oh no, I force you have snuggles. But
That's
it's
funny.
true. It's 100% true. And um I think that you raising an only child, there are significant challenges that you have to work harder to overcome. Because for us, it's built in. Sharing is built in. Fighting and conflict is built in. It's just what we do
Mm,
as a large family unit. But that's hard work, mama.
thank you. We're trying our
It is.
best. Back at you. I could, because, and it's interesting. It's like, again, you can't see what you're not in. Like
Right?
yeah, we're just awesome. High five, girl, from
High
down
five.
down in
Another
Mexico.
thing from my mentor to your community. I also, when my children were teeny tiny, my mentor said to me, remember, don't be afraid of your children. And I was like,
It makes sense now, doesn't it?
what's to be afraid of? Right? It totally makes
Oh my
sense. And
God.
this is where I see a lot of my friends get caught up. So, what does being afraid of your kid look like? Oh, crap. It's JoJo's dishes night. JoJo always fusses and throws a fit when it's her dishes night. And I go, you know what? I'll just wash them.
Yeah.
I'll just wash them. I don't want to deal with it. I can't deal with it. That's being afraid of your child,
Yep.
right? And so, oh, you know what? I'm just going to cancel the Chinese lessons because I don't want to deal with it. No, I'm going to deal with it. Right. And I'm not going to be afraid of my child's fussing because I can't handle it. So as a parent, you do what you need to do, whatever self-care, time, sleep, naps, whatever
Right.
you need to do so that you can handle your children
Yes. Yep.
so that they can still do what is best for them, what
Right.
you know they need to do. Don't be afraid of your kids.
I know. And what
It's
I always
a
tell
hard thing.
people, if you're not pissing your kids off, you're not doing it right. You're at some point, it is inevitable. It's part of it. And I tell kids the same thing. If your mom isn't making, when I work on the counseling side, I'm
Yep.
like, if your parent always gives you what you want, they're bad parents. So I'm going to tell your parents to be a little harder on you, and then you can be mad at me. But
Yeah.
girl,
There you
okay, I
go.
am mindful of our time. I could talk to you all day long. This was so much fun, but I have a counseling client in like 6 minutes.
Yes, of
So
course.
before we wrap up, well, first of all, obviously you're coming back to do another episode
Oh,
with
that'd be
me,
so fun.
and we're just
I
going to
should
be
come
best
back with
friends.
Ron.
So
I'll bring Ron.
yes. Okay. So you did commit him to doing an episode with me because I was whining that I don't have any men on my podcast. So he
Yes.
will just be okay with it because he'll be a loving, supporting husband to you. And even more fun, you can do it together
That'd be
sometime.
super fun.
That would be
That'd
so
be
much
really
fun.
fun.
So before we wrap up, tell us a little bit about your endeavors, where people can
Mm.
find you, where they can work with you, and then I'll make sure to link all your websites. But tell us what you do for your businesses.
Yeah. So the branding agency is for clients that are, they've hit the 100K mark and they really need to shore up their online presence. So a lot of my clients have thriving offline businesses, but then when they try to get online, there's a disconnect. So we just bring them up to speed. So that's branding services, SEO, website, all that. And then the wellness side of things is I work with moms who need energy. Because when a mom has energy, she can conquer the world.
Love
And
it.
moms don't have a lot of energy. And so I use natural supplements and plant-based medicines to help balance the body and to bring energy back. Because whether you've got one or whether you've got 7 kids, I believe that women are born as creators and we're built, I mean, literally within the cells of our body. That's what we do. We create. Um, and I, for years, just spent so much time working with women who didn't have enough
Yep.
to become the mother and wife that they wanted. And so tons of research and autoimmune on my part, all of that went into this other side of things. So that's why I can't put them both down or one down because I love them both.
I love it.
Um,
Well, you don't have to. That's the benefit of being able to juggle things. And honestly, the benefit of the internet, because you can meet the need of people all around the world doing what you do, and you don't have to pick. So where
that's
can people find you to learn more about that part, the wellness?
Yeah, wellness on Instagram, Positively Ali Mona. You can connect there. And then the branding is bespokebrandingco.com. But yeah, we can link all
Cool.
of
I'll link
those.
it. Yeah, I'll put everything in. This was so much fun. Thank you. And look, we didn't have dogs barking. I had a snoring dog and a kind of huffing dog over here. He was kind of doing
I
little
love
bitty
it.
barks, but we survived just hour by hour here.
And I did
Um,
not get stung,
Oh, I know. That
shockingly.
was really fun though. I mean, maybe not for you, but for me, it was really fun seeing a bee fly across your screen. I love it. Allie, thank you so much. This was oh,
Thank
there's the other big
you.
dog. I will see you soon and we'll do this again sometime
I
soon.
would
Thank
love it.
you.
I
All
would
right.
love it. Take good
Talk to you
care.
later. Bye.
Bye.